Hi, my name is Curtis Patterson, and in this video, produced by the Global Koto Network, I'll be going through some of the most basic tunings for the koto. I'll also be talking about listening carefully and using intervals to help you tune accurately. It's useful to have a chromatic tuner like this one, and if not that, you do need some way to get an initial pitch for the instrument. So, of course, the koto can be tuned any way you can tune it any way you like it. It can be tuned to a major scale, a minor scale. It can be tuned modally. Often, modern composers now today, they're interested in microtones, which are the actually pitches in between the 12 notes that you find on the keyboard. Anyway, it's a very versatile instrument, and there are many ways we can tune it. But to start out with, the most important tuning for the instrument is called hirajoshi. This is very traditional Japanese tuning, and it sounds like this. It's a 5-tone scale, and the scale is actually called miyako-bushi. It's called the miyako-bushi onkai, the miyako-bushi scale. And the notes of that scale, when we start on a D, are D, E flat, G, A, and B flat. I think we'll dive right in. The first string is tuned to a D. The second string down here is tuned to a G. Notice that we often think of a scale as starting at a low note and coming up higher, but hirajoshi is tuned with the 1 at this pitch, and the second string is lower. G, and then an A, and then the B flat is here. Then here we have another D, and this D is the exact same pitch as the first string. So when you're tuning, you can play the strings separately, like this. You can play them together. Try both. Play the strings separately and then try them together and listen to how they sound. Always listen carefully. Also, when you hold on to the bridge and when you move bridges, make sure that you're holding on very low on the bridge. I like to have the string kind of pass through between my 2 fingers there and then hold on very low with my fingers actually underneath the bridge there, going through underneath. So we're to the D, 6 is an E flat, 7 is a G, the same as the 2, 8 is an A, 9 is a B flat, we're back to D on 10, the 11th string is an E flat, 12th string is a G, and then the top string is an A. So I've been looking at my tuner as I'm tuning right now, and this is often convenient, and especially if you're working with a large group of people in an ensemble. If you have a tuner with a pickup, it's very effective to tune that way. But as you may know, as you're playing the koto, vibrations from playing or from doing presses, moving with your left hand, cause the bridges to move slightly. The strings can also stretch, and that changes the pitch. And so we need to be able to listen carefully, and as we're playing, be able to hear when something is out of tune and be able to fix that. So I'd like to talk now about listening to the tuning as you tune. One way to get to that point where you can keep things in tune while you're playing is to be able to listen and understand how pitches sound together. We talk about the distance between 2 notes as an interval. The first string is a D, and this is a G. Okay? The distance between the G and a D, if you start on the lower note and go up to the higher note, that is 5 notes. You might think of twinkle, twinkle, little star. So that's We call that a fifth, and it's a perfect fifth. It should sound beautiful together. The notes should really, I just lowered it a little bit. Let's hear how it sounds as I move it up. I'm going to stop it right there because I like the way that sounds. Okay? The next note is an A, and the distance between the A and the D here is a fourth. We call this a perfect fourth. Sometimes we think of "Here Comes the Bride." This is a fourth, and this is called also a perfect interval. It should sound very nice together. So you can experiment by moving slightly down, going up a little bit higher. Doesn't sound quite right. Okay. Now going from 3 to 4, this is a half step. It's the shortest interval. It's like going from a white key to the black key on the piano. So just half step. Now, 1 and 5, we talked about this earlier, they're the exact same note, same pitch. So, play one of them, play the other, listen how they sound separately, listen to them together. 5 to 6 from D to E flat is a half step. And you can also play this with 4 and 6 and listen to that interval. That's "Here Comes the Bride," that's a fourth. Okay, from this point we're up to, now we just tune octaves, 2 and 7. Listen carefully, separately. Try them together. Listen separately, then try together. Separately and together. 5 and 10. 7 and 12, and then okay, so that's Hirajoshi. Hirajoshi is based on, or it is the Miyakobushi scale, and this is an arrangement of half steps and of intervals of half steps, and this is 2 full steps here, and that's a step, half step, and then another 2 full steps. But this arrangement of half steps, depending on where that starts on the koto, it determines what the tuning is. This tuning is called Hirajoshi, and when in Hirajoshi, the Miyakobushi scale starts on 5. Now, I want to show you one more important scale that we use in classical music, and it's called Kumoi Joshi. It is the same arrangement of half steps and whole steps, or this is a whole step, this is 2 whole steps here, but it's the same arrangement, but it starts on a different string, and it starts on the 2nd string. So just as we have between 5, which is kind of we might call the tonic or the bass note for that scale, there's a half step here. If I want to start that kind of arrangement on the 2nd string, I need to lower the 3, half step. Okay, between the 2nd and the 3rd strings, I have 2 whole steps. I have a whole step here. I'm going to raise the 4th string 1 whole step from B flat to C, and I can use my intervals. Listening carefully there, okay? What I've done, I've lowered the 3rd string, the bridge here, half a step, and I've raised the 4th string, the bridge, I've raised that a whole step. I'm going to do that with the corresponding octaves. I'm going to lower the 8. Listen to the octave. and I'm going to raise the 4 a whole step. Now, I've lowered the A to A flat on the 3 and the 8, so you might think, oh, well, what about the A up here on 13? This is one thing that you just have to remember, is actually there are 2 types of kumoi joshi tuning. This is what we call kumoi joshi. If it's just simply written on the score kumoi joshi, this is what you'll play. If it says hon kumoi, you're going to change this bridge as well. And that will also be an A flat, just as the 3 and the 8, and it'll sound like this. So that is an explanation of the most common tunings that you'll find with classical music: hida joshi and kumoi joshi and hon kumoi joshi. There are a number of tunings that are closely related to hida joshi, and we use them quite often, and they're more common in more modern works for the koto. And so I'd just like to show you some of those things here. The first thing we often do is take this first bridge, which is tuned to a D, and we move it down 1 octave so that we start our tuning down low. This changes, for example, the sha-sha-ten, or when you play a shan, it gives quite a different sound when you have that lower D in the mix there. So this is what, if you have, when you start hida joshi with 1 tuned an octave below 5. Very common tuning. And it does change the sound quite a bit. The next thing I'd like to talk about is changing these half steps between 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. The half step makes the scale sound a little bit maybe melancholy, you might think, a little bit more minor in a way. And so by removing those half steps, by opening them up, we are making things much brighter. One very common change is to raise the 4 bridge from this 4 from B flat to C. And you can hear how that sounds with the G. G to C is a 5th. And I'm going to do the same thing with 9. And you'll see already this has made things a little bit brighter by doing away with that half step. We call that a minor second. We still have our other minor second here, this half step between 5 and 6 and 10 and 11, and we can open that up as well. I'm going to open this one up just, this tuning here, what I've done now is we would call this with 4 and 9 are raised a step. Now if I raise 11 and 6 a half a step, sound it with the 4. Now we have something very bright. And we call this tuning gaku joshi. Gaku means joy, fun. It's a very bright tuning. And we use this quite a bit as well. So those are 2 kind of ways to change hida joshi to make it a bit brighter. First of all, by raising the 4 and 9 a full step, and then you can also raise the 6 and 11 by another half step. You could raise the 6 and 11 further. You can experiment with that, and there are different pieces in different tunings. But these are some very common ones that we use. I'd like to go back to one last tuning, and that's called nogi joshi. And Nogi Joshi is useful because it places the bridges in a very regular pattern. I've moved 4 up a whole step here. I'm just going to move it back a half step. So in Hida Joshi, it was originally B flat. I've changed that. Now it's a B, okay? And we'll leave the 6 at E. So I'm just... Now so from Hida Joshi, if we were talking about it, Nogi Joshi means to raise the 4, 6, 9, and 11 bridges all 1/2 step. Just doing away with the flats, the B flats and the E flats. And this scale sounds also very bright. And let's see. So by doing a couple of presses, it's very easy to play a major scale when you're in Nogi Joshi. So if you want to play a piece that's kind of more Western, using a major scale, you might tune to Nogi Joshi, and that would make it possible to play a piece written in with a major scale. So that's a number of tunings. As I said in the beginning, it's just very important to practice this as well. Not to only practice the repertoire, but also practice tuning and listen carefully. It's important to take time. Thanks. Hope to see you again soon.